My sister Victoria was sitting there in her designer black dress, her lawyer whispering confidently in her ear about how the court would obviously see that she was the responsible daughter who deserved everything. She had just finished telling the judge how I was unstable and unfit to handle our parents' estate, her voice dripping with fake concern. She was so sure that her perfectly crafted image and expensive legal team would win the day. But then the judge leaned forward and asked her one simple question. "Miss Thompson, can you tell me when was the last time you actually visited your parents?" The color drained from Victoria's face so fast, I thought she might faint right there in that courtroom. Before I continue with this story, I want you to know that everything you're about to hear really happened to me. If this resonates with you, please consider subscribing. It helps more than you know. The call came 3 days after we buried our parents. I was still in my childhood bedroom, going through Mom's recipe cards, when Victoria's lawyer called. "Miss Emily Thompson. This is attorney Richard Hayes representing Victoria Thompson. We need to discuss your parents' estate. There seems to be some confusion about their final wishes." Confusion. That was rich coming from Victoria, who hadn't set foot in our parents' house in over 2 years. "Your sister has reason to believe your parents may have been influenced in their final decisions. We're prepared to contest the will in court." I hung up and stared at the handwritten note Mom had left me. "Emily, darling, don't let Victoria's lawyers scare you. We know what we're doing, and we know who was really here for us." To understand this story, I need to take you back because this isn't about money. It's about 2 daughters who chose completely different paths. Victoria and I were raised by the same parents, but you'd never know it. Victoria is 3 years older, and from childhood she was always the ambitious one with big dreams. Our parents, David and Margaret Thompson, were simple people. Dad was a mechanic for 35 years, Mom worked in the school cafeteria. They weren't wealthy, but they owned their house and had saved by living below their means. Victoria was ashamed of them from age 16. She'd make excuses why friends couldn't come over, why she needed rides instead of Dad picking her up in his work truck. "I'm not going to end up like them," she'd tell me. "I'm going to make something of myself." And she did. Victoria got a scholarship to a prestigious university, studied business, and moved to the city where she climbed the corporate ladder ruthlessly. By 30, she was making 6 figures. By 35, she was a VP living in a penthouse, driving a BMW, dating wealthy men. But success changed Victoria. She started visiting less, first missing Christmas due to work emergencies, then Dad's birthday for client dinners. Soon visits became purely obligatory, maybe Easter or Thanksgiving, always with complaints about our boring little town. When she did visit, she'd criticize everything. Why hadn't our parents invested in stocks? Why was Dad still driving that old truck? Why did Mom shop at discount stores? "You're wasting your potential staying here," she'd tell me. "You could move to the city, get a real job, make something of yourself instead of playing house with Mom and Dad." I had made different choices. After high school, I went to community college and became a preschool teacher, making barely above minimum wage but loving it. I rented a small apartment but was at my parents' house almost every evening, helping with yard work, cooking dinner together, watching their favorite shows. Victoria saw this as failure to launch. Our parents saw it as having a daughter who actually wanted to spend time with them. The divide grew wider as our parents aged. When Dad developed diabetes and high blood pressure, Victoria's response was sending medical articles and suggesting better doctors in the city. When Mom showed early memory issues, Victoria researched assisted living facilities. "They'd be better off with professional care," she'd tell me. "You can't possibly give them what they need." But I was there every day after school, making sure they took medications, helping with groceries, driving to appointments. When Mom got confused about cooking, I'd make large batches and freeze them. When Dad's feet hurt too much for yard work, I'd come weekends to mow and weed. Victoria called this enabling their decline. Called it love. 2 years ago, Mom's dementia accelerated rapidly. Dad was devastated, trying to care for her while managing his own health. I made the decision to move back home, giving up my apartment and taking leave from teaching to become their full-time caregiver. Victoria was furious. "This is insane, Emily. You're throwing your life away. They need professional care, not you playing nurse." "They need their family," I replied. The next 18 months were the hardest but most meaningful of my life. I watched Dad struggle with arthritis, helped Mom remember basic tasks. Some days were beautiful. Mom would have clear moments. Other days were heartbreaking. Mom asking where her husband was while Dad sat right next to her. Through it all, Victoria visited exactly 3 times in 18 months. Christmas 8 months after I moved home. She stayed 2 hours, spent most of it on work calls, left early because Mom didn't recognize her and it upset Victoria. Dad's 72nd birthday. She brought an expensive gift basket of fancy food our parents couldn't digest, complained about the smell of Dad's medication, left after dinner. The final visit was when Dad was hospitalized with pneumonia. Victoria flew in, lectured doctors about treatment options, flew back when he stabilized because she couldn't afford to be away from work longer. Meanwhile, I was there for every emergency, learning to give insulin shots, managing medications, recognizing Mom's bad days. I held Dad's hand through hospitalizations and helped Mom navigate daily confusion. 6 months ago, Dad's health declined. His diabetes led to kidney problems, and doctors said there wasn't much more to do. He chose comfort care. Called Victoria. "How long do we have?" she asked, typing on her computer. "Maybe a few weeks, possibly a month or 2. Keep me posted. I'll try to get out there when it's time." Dad died on a Tuesday morning with me holding his hand. Victoria arrived that evening for funeral arrangements. Mom died 3 weeks later. Couples married 46 years often don't survive long without each other. Victoria had returned to the city, so again it was just me. At both funerals, Victoria played the grieving daughter perfectly. Designer dresses, beautiful eulogies. But the neighbors who'd seen me daily, the nurses who'd never met Victoria, they knew the real story. 3 days after Mom's burial, Victoria's lawyer called about contesting the will. Our parents had left everything to me. The house, savings, Dad's pension. About $180,000 total. According to Victoria's legal filing, our parents had been unduly influenced by my presence. The lawyers claimed I had isolated them, manipulated them, and coerced them into changing their will. I hired a lawyer I could barely afford. Victoria assembled a high-powered legal team, painting me as a manipulative caregiver who had brainwashed our failing parents. They submitted evidence of Victoria's success, her degree, her stable lifestyle compared to my dependence. My lawyer gathered the real evidence. Medical records listing me as primary caregiver, testimonies from nurses and doctors, statements from neighbors who witnessed my daily presence in Victoria's absence. The most powerful evidence was a video our parents made with their lawyer 6 months before Dad died. Despite being weak, Dad spoke clearly. "Victoria is successful and doesn't need our help. Emily gave up her life to take care of us. This is our way of making sure she's taken care of, the way she took care of us." The court date was 6 weeks after Mom's funeral. Victoria arrived looking like she was going to a board meeting. Sharp suit, perfect hair, team of 3 lawyers. I wore my best dress and sat with my single lawyer. Victoria's lawyer painted a picture of elderly parents manipulated by a desperate daughter who had isolated them from their successful child. He presented Victoria's credentials like evidence. Her degree, salary, promotions. He showed photos of her upscale lifestyle, arguing she was the more responsible beneficiary. Then Victoria testified. She walked to the witness stand like giving a presentation. Confident, polished, completely in control. "I was deeply worried about my parents' isolation," Victoria said, looking directly at the judge. "Emily had moved in and was controlling every aspect of their lives. When I tried to visit or call, she would intercept communications. It was masterful. If I hadn't lived the real story, I might have believed her. We were very close before Emily moved in," Victoria continued. "I called regularly, visited as often as work allowed, always made sure they knew how much I loved them. Emily made it almost impossible to maintain our relationship. Then my lawyer, Janet Martinez, stood for cross-examination. Janet was soft-spoken, unpretentious, focused on facts rather than flash. Miss Thompson, you testified that you were very close to your parents. Can you tell me how often you visited them in the 2 years before your sister moved in? Victoria shifted. As often as I could, given my work responsibilities. Can you be more specific? Once a week. Once a month. It varied depending on my schedule. I have visitor logs from your parents' medical appointments. In 2 years before your sister moved home, you visited exactly 4 times. Does that sound accurate? Victoria's composure cracked slightly. I may not have visited as often as I would have liked, but we spoke regularly. According to phone records, your calls became less frequent as their health declined. In their final 6 months you called 7 times. Your sister called or visited every single day. Janet continued methodically. When was the last time you took them to a doctor's appointment? Never. When did you last spend the night helping with their care? Couldn't answer. When did you last help with medications, groceries, household tasks? No direct answers. Then Janet asked the question that changed everything. Miss Thompson, you've painted a picture of being a devoted daughter pushed away by manipulation. But I need to ask something specific. Janet paused. Can you tell me when was the last time you actually visited your parents before they became seriously ill? Victoria opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at her lawyers, then back at Janet. I visited them regularly. Can you give me a specific date? A specific occasion? When was the last time you sat in your parents' living room before their health declined? Complete silence. Victoria's face went pale, and for the first time she looked truly rattled. I don't remember exact dates. Was it Christmas 2 years ago? Your father's birthday? Any specific memory? Victoria looked desperately at her lawyers, but they couldn't help. You can't lawyer your way out of not having memories because you weren't there to make them. Judge Hammond leaned forward. Miss Thompson, the question is simple. When was the last time you visited your parents before they became seriously ill? Specifically. Victoria sat in silence for an eternity. The confident executive was gone, replaced by someone who looked very small and alone. I can't remember exactly, she finally whispered. Is it possible you can't remember because it had been so long there wasn't a recent visit to remember? Victoria's voice was barely audible. Possibly. And is it possible your parents left their estate to your sister not because she manipulated them, but because she was actually there when they needed someone? Victoria looked at the judge, then at me, then down. I suppose it's possible. The rest was essentially over. My lawyer presented our evidence, but after Victoria's testimony collapsed under that simple question, it felt unnecessary. Judge Hammond returned with her decision. Miss Victoria Thompson, your success is admirable, but success doesn't automatically entitle you to your parents' estate. Your parents made a deliberate decision based on which daughter actually showed up when they needed help. She turned to me. Miss Emily Thompson, the evidence shows you provided something your sister did not. Actual presence, daily care, and willingness to sacrifice for their well-being. Her final words to Victoria. Your parents didn't disinherit you out of malice. They chose to leave their estate to the daughter who chose to be present for the difficult parts, not just celebrations. This court finds no evidence of manipulation. The will stands. Victoria left immediately, her legal team trailing behind. She didn't speak to me, didn't look at me, just walked away. That was 4 months ago. Victoria and I haven't spoken since. I heard she tells people the judge was biased, that I manipulated the system. She can't accept she lost because she wasn't there when it mattered. Victoria didn't just lose the inheritance. She lost the chance for meaningful relationships with our parents in their final years. She lost memories of holding Dad's hand during scary visits, singing Mom's favorite songs, all the small moments that make up a lifetime of love. I may not have Victoria's salary or penthouse, but I have something she'll never have. The knowledge that when our parents needed someone most, I was there. The real inheritance isn't money. It's knowing I loved them well, that I showed up, that I chose presence over profit. Every morning, I wake up in the house where I learned what love looks like in action. I make coffee in Mom's kitchen, tend Dad's garden, and remember that the most valuable inheritance isn't money. It's the example of how to love someone well, even when it's hard. If this story touched you, please subscribe and share it. Sometimes we need reminders that showing up matters more than showing off, that presence is more valuable than presents. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Have you ever been in a situation where family members had completely different ideas about responsibility and care? Maybe you've been the one who stayed while others pursued their dreams, or perhaps you've witnessed a family torn apart by different values. Share your story with us. I read every single comment, and your experiences help inspire future videos. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a story. Your support really helps other people discover these stories of hope and vindication. And here's something I'm curious about. Where are you watching this from right now? Are you in Texas, California, maybe watching from Canada or the UK? Drop a comment and let me know what state or country you're tuning in from. I love connecting with viewers from all corners of the globe. Remember, your story matters too. Whether you're the one who stays and cares or someone learning to balance success with relationships, your choices shape not just your future, but the legacy you leave behind. Keep being present for the people who matter. Keep choosing love over convenience. And never underestimate the power of simply showing up. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.